Today, the topic will be on continuing support through online guidance and counseling. Before we begin, take note of the following reminders. Make sure you are registered to the webinar to have your e-certificate of participation. Visit certificate.vibalgroup.com to generate your proof of attendance. Place your questions on the comment box allotted during the session and they will be addressed by our speaker later on. Share the video using hashtag learnAsOnePH as our official hashtag to our VIBAL webinars. Experience learning, ka-VIBAL? And now, to proceed with our webinar this afternoon, it is my pleasure to introduce to you our distinguished speaker today. Mariala Arni Di Benaventura is a registered guidance counselor and licensed teacher. She obtained her college degree of Bachelor of Science in Psychology in La Consolacion College, Manila, as an academic scholar, where she graduated with Academic Excellence Award and Magna Cum Laude. She took up her certificate in teaching course and Master of Arts in Education, major in Guidance and Counseling at the National Teachers College, Manila. Her experience as a guidance counselor for 14 years include working in several private schools and universities where she handled students in all grade levels and college students. These experiences had coupled with teaching experiences handling psychology and education related courses. She also is invited as resource speaker in different topics related to teaching, mental health, psychology, bullying, and insets of DepEd schools. Presently, she is one of the guidance counselors in Philippine Normal University, Manila. She is assigned to handle freshmen and graduate students. She is also the coordinator for student activities, graduate level, and the ISO focal person of the Office of the Student Affairs and Student Services. Other than her professional achievement, she is also happily married to Janri, who is a dining supervisor at Number One Barbecues owned by Triple V. And she is also a proud mother to her three beautiful daughters, Julia, Bea, and Jada. Julia is a consistent honor student in Malabon Science High School, while Bea is also a consistent honor and active student in Kaunlaran Elementary School. Ladies and gentlemen, let us welcome Miss Maria Laarni D. Benaventura.
Um, Thank you so much po sa VIVAL for inviting me once again in this another webinar series po on student activities, interest clubs. Ayan, actually isa din po 'yan sa aking mga hinahandle sa PNU. So, let me begin po with my topic. So, um I'll be discussing about continuing support during pandemic through online guidance and counseling. So as a counselor, no, during this pandemic, medyo naging for sure hindi lang kami naka-experience pero naging challenging itong part nito kasi ngayon lang naman tayo naka-experience ng pandemic no all throughout this lifetime, no. Kasi yung mga kung nagkaroon man ng pandemic in the past, medyo matagal-tagal na wala tayong masyadong experience, although history indicates those experiences. So right now, I'll be focusing on online guidance and counseling. But of course, hindi lang naman guidance counseling yung services or support services that we can provide to our students. So I'll be focusing on students and syempre ito yung mga services na pinoprovide natin sa school, ano. Ayan. So let me continue with for a while. Okay. Ayan. So, I am already introduced by Miss Jillian. So, ayan. Actually, love na love ko po talaga yung profession na to. Kasi ever since nung college ako, parang ito na talaga yung gusto ko. Nasa field ako ng psychology. Pero hindi ko lang talaga na-imagine na guidance and counseling talaga yung field na mapupuntahan ko. And then at the same time, hindi naman talaga yung pagiging teacher yung gusto ko, pero dahil it runs in the family, majority of my relatives are teachers. So siguro parang ganun na, no, parang part of this that's happening on me is my plan, but then of course may destiny na humahawak sa atin. So kaya binigay sa akin pareho yung guidance and counseling and pagiging teacher. So nakakatuwa rin naman talaga si God. Ito yung part ng plan niya. So, the outline of my topic is, of course, to define counseling in the new normal. Ano ba, paano ba ang ibig sabihin ng counseling in the new normal, at paano ba natin to gagawin? And of course, what are the legal basis of continued support for students? So, ito ba ay binigay lang talaga, or initiative lang ba to ng mga counselor, or talagang hinihingi talaga to ng batas, no, ni-require talaga sa ating mga professionals na mag-provide talaga ng assistance sa mga students. And of course, let's try to look into ano yung history, ano yung pinagdaanan ng online counseling, at least a bit of the history. And what are the important considerations in conducting online counseling? So, napakarami nating considerations na dapat na dapat tingnan, na dapat what you call this, na dapat nating i-consider, na yung mga factors na hindi lang basta-basta tayong mag-conduct ng online counseling, no? So napakarami nating dapat na i-count before we do that. Okay? And syempre, ay pasok na rin natin na sino ba talaga yung pwedeng mag-conduct ng guidance ng online counseling, ano? Pwede ba lahat ng counselor ay mag-conduct nito? Pwede ba kahit na hindi licensed counselor ay mag-conduct nito? O ano yung role ng mga teacher sa ganitong aspeto, no? Kasi lahat, for sure, karamihan sa atin na nakatutok ngayon dito sa live webinar na ito, ay karamihan sa atin ay mga teacher. So, at least magkaroon tayo ng idea, mga kaguruan, kung ano pa talaga ang role ng guidance counselor sa paaralan. At papaano kung halimbawa, paano natin i-address yung mga concerns na may mga schools na wala namang registered guidance counselor. Ano yung services na pwede nilang ibigay, ano yung services na pwedeng nating i-offer sa ating mga students. Ayan. So, yung background dito, anong pinanggagalingan nitong topic na to is, for sure, updated naman tayo sa balita, no, sa mga nangyayari sa paligid natin. Nanonood tayo ng balita everyday, no, kahit limited lang yung mga nakukuhanan natin ng news. And then, of course, visible din naman sa mga social media, din sa YouTube, sa internet, kung ano yung mga nangyayari sa paligid natin. And one of this is, of course, yung increase ng mga calls sa mga sa mga free hotlines natin regarding dun sa pre-lockdown, dun sa mga regarding mental health concerns, with from 80, no, before lockdown, 80, average of 80 pa lang yung nare-receive nila. Pero ngayon, after several months, tumaas siya to 400. So that is how many percent, no? That is actually more than almost 400% of yung naging increase niya, no? So medyo nakakabahala na talaga yung ganong data. And of course, there are also some, sad to say, some mental health related deaths, no. I'm sure na narinig natin yan sa mga news ngayon, na there are some students, very young students, na nag-commit ng suicide because of their mental health related concerns. And of course, isa sa mga possibility na nangyari yan is because of course, effect ng pandemic, or maaari din na nagkaroon ng meron na talagang concern yung student, pero hindi agad siya na-address, tapos umabot pa sa ganitong point na talaga naman ang laki din ng impact ng pandemic na ito sa mental health natin. And yung age bracket na tinitingnan natin is from between 15 to 29 years old. So dun sa 15 to 21 to 22, ito yung from high school to college to college level. Ito yung mga students natin eh. Hinahawakan natin sila or na-handle na natin sila, no? Hindi masyado dun sa mga kabataan, pero for sure, or hindi lang siguro, pero siguro some of them are also experiencing difficulties in terms of their mental health. Pero mas malaki yung chances na maging fatal yung experiences nila in this particular age bracket. And of course, the last one is the average of 53 suicide-related concerns, no, na mga calls na nare-receive ng ating mga hotlines. And some of them are experiencing fear, anxiety, worry, ganyan. Medyo terrified sila dun sa na-experience nila. So, dito sa mga reports na to, ano ba yung pupwedeng or ano yung dapat gawin? Meron bang dapat na gawin itong mga mental health um uh, tawag diyan, mental health practitioners natin, no? Sa ano yung responsibility nila at meron ba silang dapat na gawin at ano yon, okay? So, let's move on to ito yung mga pinanggagalingan natin. During this pandemic talagang medyo naging laganap yung mga mental health concerns natin due to uncertainties. Ayan, so hindi natin alam kung hanggang kailan tong pandemic na to. Hindi natin alam kung what will happen in a few months, in a few kung hanggang kailan darating yung vaccine, 'di ba? Ano yung mangyayari sa atin kapag tumagal pa tong pandemic na to? And of course, one of the most strongly affected by this pandemic is of course our families who are experiencing financial turmoil. Hindi lahat sa atin are granted to continue working, ano, yung makasweldo, makareceive ng monthly pay nila. Yung karamihan sa mga Pilipino ngayon ay nawalan ng trabaho. There are still continued retrenchment in different companies, no? Hindi maiwasan kasi even the companies naghihikaws din sila kung paano nila maisaselba yung mga businesses nila. So everyone is experiencing financial problem. And this is also one of the major contributory of problems in terms of mental health. And of course, sa tagal na ng pandemic na to, although yung iba sa atin medyo matigas yung ulo, talagang nagpipimilit pa ring lumabas, ano, at yung iba naman sa atin ay talagang kailangan ng bumalik sa trabaho, and very fortunate na nakakabalik pa sila talaga sa trabaho. Pero some of us are experiencing isolation. Yung bang tipong nasa condo lang, hindi sila makalabas, 'di ba? Umaasa lang sila sa mga Grab, doon sa mga online delivery na food services, 'di ba? Pero they are on their own. They are not living with their families, not living with their loved ones, 'di ba? They are not seeing their friends. They are seeing their friends but just online. Pero may mga tao kasi na napaka-importante yung physical presence, ano, yung pang makadaupang palad mo, makita mo, makausap mo ng personal. Tapos hindi yung iba sa atin ay really not that comfortable in communicating online. Parang mas gusto pa natin talaga na makita ng personal yung mga taong kakausapin natin. So, kapag hindi tayo maka-adapt dun sa pamamaraan ng pakikipag-usap ngayon, pakikipag-communicate ngayon, medyo maapektuhan din yung ating mental health. And of course, fear, anxiety of COVID-19, syempre sa tumatagal na existence nito sa paligid natin, hindi natin maiwasan na mag-isip na baka isang araw mahawaan na rin ako ng COVID-19, ganyan. Parang baka isa sa mga family members ko maka-trans or makakuha nito. So, hindi natin maiwasan na magstay ito sa isip natin, ano. Ayan. So ito yung mga contributory factor bakit kailangan natin ng continued support, no? Especially on helping our mental health through guidance and counseling. Ayan. Pero ano ba talaga yung nagdidikta ng bakit kailangan natin ng continued support na to? Of course, we have our legal basis para sa kaalaman po ng lahat na ito yung pinaka-strong force na nagdidikta bakit kailangan nating mag-demand ng ganitong tulong, ng ganitong suporta, no? Hindi lang yung financial help, hindi lang yung ayuda, no, galing sa DSWD, kundi ito din kasi is nakasaad din to sa batas na kailangan nating ituloy yung social support sa ating mga Pilipino, lalong-lalo na dun sa mga students natin and of course dun sa mga vulnerable members of our society. Okay? So, isa dito yung Mental Health Act. So, itong Mental Health Act is or known as RA 11036. So ito recently na pag-uusapan to sa Senado, no, because there's a rise of cases in mental health. So this is actually the law na palagi na pag-uusapan ngayon because it underscores the basic rights of all the Filipinos to mental health na kailangan magkaroon tayo ng free access to the delivery of integrated mental health services and to promote and to protect the right of our right in access of mental health services and facilities. No, what are these mental health services na dapat nating ma-receive through this law, no? And ano yung mga facilities na dapat na na-access natin na supported ng batas na to. Ayan. So, and at the next one is the RA 9258 or the Enhance or the Guidance and Counseling Act. So, ako ay isa sa mga tagasunod nitong batas na to kasi uh, dito talaga nakasaad ano yung mga responsibilities namin as licensed guidance counselors, no. So of course it promotes the holistic development of every individual, not just an individual but also a group. So it follows a certain ethical, relevant and effective and guidance and counseling services, no. Hindi lang siya basta service na dahil gusto mo lang siyang ibigay, no, hindi. It follows a certain standards. It has an ethical standard, it has a technical standard as well na dapat sundin ng mga licensed guidance counselor. Otherwise, kasi kung hindi tayo susunod doon, kasi there may be some what you call this, pwede kasing magkaroon ng detrimental effect doon sa ating mga students, no? So that's why we really have to adhere to the ethical standards of the law. And then another basis is that the CHAD Memo number 9 series of 2013. So this is the enhanced policies and guidelines on student affairs and services. Na dito nakakapaloob yung pagbibigay ng guidance and counseling. This to make the education accessible to all. So ibig sabihin hindi porket na nagkaroon ng pandemic at hindi pumapasok yung mga guidance counselor sa mga institutions or kahit yung mga teachers hindi tayo we are not meeting our students physically, we still have to provide, to promote, and to practice or to ibigay yung mga serbisyo na dapat na nare-receive na ating mga mag-aaral. Okay? At kabilang dito yung pag-receive ng guidance and counseling services, no? So sa dami ng services na yan, no, kung iisa-isahin natin, medyo kulang yung isang araw natin. Pero madami po silang dapat na ma-receive ngayon. So we have to dahil hindi possible sa face to face ang pagbibigay natin ng services, we have to migrate these services to an online modality. O ano yung feasible na modality na hindi natin kailangang magkaroon ng physical contact with our students. And another one, this one is for DepEd. So DepEd Order number 40, series of 2012. So this is the DepEd Child Protection Policy. So the right of children to assistance, including proper care and special protection from all forms of neglect, abuse, cruelty, exploitation, and other conditions prejudicial to their development. So kasi ngayong pandemic, hindi natin nakikita yung mga bata. So hindi natin alam kung ano yung experiences nila, di ba? Ano yung nararamdaman nila. So, but still, it is still necessary, it is required for us to provide the necessary assistance that we have to give them. And as for teachers, so syempre, katulad dun sa mga kaguruan natin na patuloy pa rin nagtuturo hanggang ngayon through online modality. But of course, our guidance counselors still have to continue their services through online. So yan. So hindi porket nagkaroon ng pandemic at nasa bahay ang mga kaguruan natin, ang ating mga guidance counselors, ay hinto na tayo sa pagbibigay ng services sa kanila. So, we still have a call to provide these services even during this pandemic. So, yan. So, ito po yung ating mga mental health service providers, no, na tinatawag natin na para ma-identify naman natin sino ba itong mga tao na dapat nating lapitan, no? Particularly in terms of mental health. 'di ba? Or yung mga student support services natin. So we have in medicine field, of course pwede rin to sa mga institutions, sa mga academic institutions, we have the doctors, we have the psychologists, we have our nurse and social workers. In our community, we have the counselors, the peer counselors, and community caregivers. And then in educational institutions, we have the counselors, we also have the doctors, we have the nurse. Ayan. So sila yung kung merong psychologist, much better ano. Kung may psychiatrist pa nga, it's a plus. So ito yung mga na-identify sa Mental Health Act ng mga mental health service providers na po pwedeng mag-provide ng mental health services sa ating lahat. And of course, to continue the support during this during this pandemic. So, yan nabanggit nga kasi ni Health Secretary Francisco Duque, the importance of mental health initiatives is just as crucial as those for the COVID-19 pandemic. So, now more than ever, we need to promote holistic health. So, not just the body, the mind, and even the spirit, or the holistic psyche of every person. So, that's why we really have to continue and mas maganda nga sana kung mas ma-intensify pa natin itong mga services na to kasi talagang ang laki ng need, ang taas ng pangangailangan ng mga tao sa paligid natin, sa community, sa institutions, sa schools, and even sa workplace. Okay, so what is guidance counseling? Ayan, so this is actually an integrated approach to development. So hindi lang siya isang one-shot deal, no? Hindi siya pag sinabi mong guidance and counseling yung isang beses lang na makipag-usap, no? Hindi lang siya ganon. And hindi rin siya pagbibigay ng advice sa individual or sa group. But of course, we help them to utilize their potential to the fullest and plan their future. So part dito yung planning. And we are looking into the individual's capability to cope up with their concerns, with their present condition. Na hindi sila yung namomroblema sila ngayon tapos magtutuloy-tuloy na babagsak yung kanilang kakayahan na mag-cope up dun sa sitwasyon. So tayong mga counselors, tutulungan natin sila na makabangon using their potentials, na ma-identify nila baka kasi nakakalimot sila ano ba yung mga kakayahan nila. So we will help them to realize those potentials and then use those potentials to plan their future and to work on it. Ayan. We are focusing on their abilities, the interest, and of course, ano ba yung initial na pangangailangan nila at the moment? Bakit ba natin sila tutulungan? Okay, ano ba yung need nila? So, doon tayo nakafocus. And usually, it is conducted face-to-face. Pero since during this pandemic, so hindi naman natin po pwedeng gawin yan, so we are utilizing other modalities. So no sa face-to-face guidance and counseling. So sino yung nagbibigay ng guidance counseling services? So these are the people who are registered. They are registered. So ibig sabihin, they undergo licensure examinations para ma-register sila. They have their PRC license issued by PRC. They have their certificate of guidance and counseling. They are also trained in the field. They have attended several trainings and conferences to be able to attain a certain level of standards. They also adhere to the rules and regulations stipulated in the RA 9258. And of course, they strictly adhere to the Code of Professional Ethics and Technical Standards in the practice of guidance and counseling. So hindi po basta-basta tayo magkakandak ng counseling. So dapat meron tayong mga sinusunod na ethical standard and technical standards. So yun po yung yun po yung tinitingnan po natin pagka sinabi natin guidance counselor. So ito yung hihingin natin, no, dapat may license ka ba, ganyan, or meron ka bang certificate, do you have trainings, ganyan. So yun ang tanong natin sa kanila. And then to further explain that, guidance counselors, they provides guidance and guidance counseling to students, to different stakeholders na part ng institution or pwede rin sa community yan kasi isa yan sa mga advocacy ng mga guidance counselors, no? Kapag may nangailangan talaga sa community ng counseling services, hindi namin pwedeng tanggihan yan, syempre. And then of course, with this, we can also provide mental health assistance and career guidance services, especially during this pandemic. So, mental health assistance, hindi may mga cases kasi na hindi na cover or no, hindi na kaya or hindi na cover nung capabilities and training ng mga guidance counselor. So kapag it's beyond our capability, so we can refer them to other professionals like psychiatrists or doctors or psychologists. Okay? So ito yung mga alay natin in attending to mental health concerns of our students. And then we also provide support in mental health well-being and career planning of our learners and educational personnels, no? Pwede rin naman tong i-apply dun sa mga institutions like yung mga sa workplace, dun sa mga businesses, ganyan. Pwede rin naman. So, basta nakafocus tayo sa mental health well-being. So, kumbaga, ito yung mga preventive measures para maiwasan natin yung pagdami ng mga number of students or cases who are experiencing mental health concerns, no? Para maiwasan natin yun. So, we provide activities or programs that will enhance, that will develop the positive mental health well-being of our students. So para yun sa lahat. Then of course, we provide services to community, schools, educational and training institutions. Okay, so now moving on. So dahil ang focus natin is ano yung services na pwede nating ibigay during pandemic. So ang focus natin is the online counseling services in school. So, of course, katulad kanina na-mention ko na napakaraming services na pwedeng ibigay sa mga students, no? Like yung information services, ayan, sa assessment and testing, evaluation, referral. We also provide, what do you call that? Mental health, yung mga developmental programs, ayan. So actually, napakarami pa natin pwedeng ibigay sa kanila through online. Pero very crucial talaga yung online counseling services. Sa bukod sa ito yung isa sa medyo pinakamahirap, medyo challenging talaga na service. At the same time, very exclusive siya for guidance counselors, no? Hindi natin to po pwedeng basta na lang ibigay na, oh, ano daw, may student daw na nangangailangan. O teacher, baka pwede mong kausapin. Baka ganon, ano? Baka may ganong arrangement. So, hindi basta-basta natin to pwedeng gawing ganon, no? Basta ibigay na lang natin sa ibang professional, no? May mga certain standards tayo na dapat na i-consider when it comes to online counseling services. Okay, so counseling this is a dynamic personal interaction between the counselor and the counselee. So usually this is provided face to face. So right now, because of this pandemic, so we are providing this through online given a certain number of considerations, no? Hindi basta-basta mga considerations yan, napakarami yan actually. Okay, so for counselors, we have to consider their competence. Are you trained to handle online counseling? Were you able to receive this kind of training and of course yung mga technological knowledge natin is are enough para mag-conduct tayo ng online counseling. So ito yung mga questions natin, ano, dapat si counselor is really trained and competent in handling online counseling kasi ang daming po pwedeng mangyari. At dapat yun i-consider at dapat yun ma-attend natin. And we can only do that if we are trained to handle online counseling. Okay? And of course, there are also limitations of practice. So what are these kind of limitations na kasi 'di ba kanina pag-usapan, na-mention ko na may mga cases na hindi naman talaga pwedeng for online counseling. Okay? Like for example, if the students are having disability or they are having problems, they are not able to read, so paano sila magbabasa ng email, paano sila magbabasa ng chat. Okay, and then of course if the student or if the client is not technologically knowledgeable to do online counseling, so isa pa 'yon. And if the student have learning disability, yan part din yan ng limitations natin. And then of course yung other considerations pa that we will talk about later. Training and supervision, yan na mention ko na yan kanina, na for a counselor to be able to be competent enough, dapat mag-undergo siya ng training. And kahit na work from home tayo mga counselors, kailangan pa rin meron pa rin nagsusupervise ng ating mga kinakandak na online counseling. Hindi pwede na tayo lang, kasi there are some cases na medyo complicated. So we have to consult another more experienced guidance or registered guidance counselors to assist us, to at least give us some wisdom on how we can further improve our management or case management capability. Okay? Then of course, the identity and credentials. Kapag pumapasok sa schools yung mga bata, identify nila na, ay, ito, guidance counselor ko to. Si ma'am ay registered, ganyan. Si ma'am ay nagpo-provide ng ganitong services. Alam natin, nakikita natin ano yung credentials ng mga teachers, kasi usually nakapost naman sa mga walls yan ng counseling room. But in online counseling, hindi nakikita ng mga students yan, hindi nakikita ng mga client yan. So dapat aware si client or si student kung sino yung kausap niya, at si ma'am talaga to. Kaya si counselor talaga tong kausap ko. At kilala din niya somehow, may idea siya ano yung background ni counselor, na siya talaga yung registered guidance counselor namin, talagang siya yung nag-handle ng mga ganitong klaseng cases. No? So dapat aware yung mga students doon sa idea na yon, na hindi yung basta lang nila kakausapin yung counselor, no, tapos hindi naman nila alam, hindi naman nila kilala. Okay? Unless, of course, kung nirefer yan mismo, kung yung counselor ay nirefer mismo ng isa pang counselor. Ibig sabihin, na-verify na ni counselor na itong counselor na ipapakausap mo sa estudyante mo ay registered counselor talaga. Okay? So, yan yung mga concerns natin. With regards naman to counselees, of course, kailangan nating ma-identify ano yung ilang taon na yung kakausapin natin. Kapag high school student up to 18 hanggang 18 years old, 18 years old pababa, they are still considered as minor, ano. Pero kapag kasi student ay nakakapag-decide na on their own, ayan, pwede na wala ng special arrangement. Pero for minors, like for example, grade school, ayan, wala talaga silang capability to decide on their own, ganyan. Kailangan natin ng presence ng parents or ng guardian. Okay? So, kailangan makipag-usap muna tayo sa guardian na magkakandak tayo ng online counseling sa students, ganyan. Kausapin muna natin sila. Tapos, ito yung mga ilalatag natin sa kanila, ano yung mga confidentiality agreement natin, no, for minors. But for students na hindi na minor, like yung mga adult na, young adult, that they can decide on their own, pwede natin silang kausapin ng sila lang, okay? Na kahit na wala yung parent or walang caregiver. Then another consideration is their disability and their abilities. Okay? Ano ba yung kakayahan ng mga students natin? May problem ba sila sa communication? May problem ba sila sa technology? Hindi ba sila comfortable? Ano? So, part yan ng na considerations natin. And then of course, yung informed consent. So, kapag minor, kailangan natin ng mag-ask ng consent from their parents to conduct online counseling. Hindi pwedeng basta-basta lang tayo magpa-provide o basta-basta lang natin kakausapin yung student or si counselee for counseling, no? Hindi pwede. So we have to consider their parents. Yung decision nila, kung papayag, edi go. Kung hindi, so we cannot just proceed. Okay? So that's another consideration. So now let's move on to online counseling. So this is synonymous with telehealth or web counseling. So pag sinabi nila na telehealth yan or web counseling, isa lang tinutukoy nila. So it is also online counseling. So this is also online counseling is an alternative to face-to-face modality, face-to-face counseling, but it is conducted through the use of internet. So without the internet, we cannot conduct online counseling. But of course, there are also other modalities that we can use in the absence of internet. Okay? Pero pag nabanggit na yung online counseling, internet na agad yung pumapasok sa isip natin, no? This can be conducted through the use of video, the telephone communication, and between the counselor and the counselee. We can also use chatting, we can also use emailing, ganyan. Nagta-type tayo ng mga messages natin. Nag-exchange tayo ng messages through email or chatting. So, yan yung online counseling. Okay? So ito namang online counseling is already used in the past, no? So may history na siya. But here in the Philippines, I think around 2000 siya nag-start na pina-practice, pero hindi pa siya ganun hindi pa siya well known. Hindi siya well known practice for Filipinos. So doon pa rin tayo sa pag sinabi mong counseling, traditional yung nasa isip natin face to face. Pero it has been a practice in the past. It is called the telebehavioral health or telemedicine. So the father of telemedicine or telebehavioral health is a Carl Rogers. So he's also the proponent of unconditional positive regard. So he's a behaviorist. So it started around 1940s to 1950s. And sa katunayan nga, nagkaroon ng 2001, nagkaroon ng first ethical guidelines produced by British Association of Counselors and Psychotherapists, no? So, yun yung naging father ng lahat ng mga ethical guidelines sa sinusunod natin ngayong panahon na to. Okay, in 2000, nagkaroon ng maraming researches or nag-start na magkaroon ng researches on online counseling. Ano yung mga, and of course, yung mga best practices, ayan, paano ba ginagawa, ayan. So, naging part yan ng researches. And then in 2009, nagkaroon ng evidences that online counseling when done well can be as good as face-to-face. So, ibig sabihin, effective naman tong online counseling kung talagang gagawin lang natin or i-apply lang natin yung mga specific considerations na stipulate natin later. Okay, so what are the advantages of online counseling? Bakit dapat na pwede naman natin siyang i-utilize sa panahon ngayon? Of course, we have the accessibility. If you have the accessibility like the internet, anywhere you are, anywhere you are, minsan nga nandito ka sa Luzon, pero yung counselor mo pwedeng nasa Mindanao, pwedeng nasa Visayas, no? Pwedeng nasa ibang lugar. Hindi mo kailangan na you should be in the same vicinity or like hindi na kailangan ngayon na pareho kayo nasa Metro Manila para mag-conduct ng online counseling, no? So pwede na yung in different places here in the Philippines or even abroad, ano, pwede na yan. So medyo mas mataas na yun or yung accessibility niya is one of the advantages. And of course, affordability, hindi mo na kailangan lumabas, hindi mo na kailangang mag-travel, no? Hindi mo na kailangan pumunta sa ibang lugar, hindi mo na kailangan gumastos diyan. So yung fee naman ng guidance counselor actually from what I heard nasa around 500 to 1,000 siya. Wala pa tayo specific na talagang ito lang hanggang dito lang yung range ng fee. But of course, this yung range ng fee na yan is only applicable to those who are practicing privately. But to those who are in the public institutions, they are especially in public schools or SUCs, they are provided for free. Okay? So free yan. Kaya mas affordable talaga siya, no? And of course, the convenience as long as you have the internet access and you have the gadgets, you have all the things that you need, you can access, you can obtain the services online. Medyo malilimit din or mababawasan yung social stigma kasi 'di ba karamihan sa atin siguro yung mga previous years pa takot pa silang mag-attend ng counseling kapag nasabi nila na counseling, nako baka mamaya sabihin sa akin may tililing ako, may sayad ako, may problema ako sa pag-iisip, no? So ganun, kaya yung iba medyo ano pa rin sila, medyo takot pa rin silang mag-undergo or mag-seek ng services ng counseling. So, because of this online na napaprovide natin siya online, hindi tayo kailangan makita physically na nagpupunta sa counselor. So, kaya hindi na iisipin ng ibang tao na may problema tayo sa pag-iisip kaya tayo nagsisik ng help ng counselor. Pero sa totoo lang naman, hindi naman talaga hindi naman napakalayo na kapag nag-attend ka ng counseling is may problema ka sa pag-iisip, no? Hindi naman talaga gano'n. Kapag gano'n na yung problema, iba na yung mag-handle nun, hindi na counselor, no? Iba na yon, ibang level na yon. So, ibang professional yung nag-handle kapag ka talagang nalaman natin or meron talagang assessment na may emotional or like may mental problem yung ating client, no? And of course, the anonymity, yung iba sa atin ay mas comfortable na makipag-usap sa hindi sila kilala personally, no? So mas comfortable tayong mag-share ng ideas or mag-share ng feelings natin, mag-share ng thoughts natin dun sa strangers, ano? So kaya pag mag-attend tayo ng online counseling, parang mas go tayo, mas comfortable tayo. And then of course, online counseling offers different forms of communication, no? Pwedeng chat, yan, through email, pwedeng through video conferencing. Ayan. So, napakarami niyang ino-offer na modalities, no? Kaya pwede tayong mamili doon, no? So, ito yung mga advantages niya. Okay, so here are some practical considerations in conducting online counseling. So of course, we have to choose different modalities, ano yung setup natin, okay? And we also need to consider the internet speed or the connectivity, the security or encryption or data encryption, the informed consent of our client, the confidentiality agreement between our client, and of course, there are some communication issues that we have to consider. Let's talk about the modality that we have to use. So, but of course, beforehand, we have to consider, do we have all the things that we need? Like, do we have a laptop? Do we have a desktop? Do we have a headset or microphone? So that we can do the online counseling comfortably. If kung wala, we can use the smartphone, we can use the landline, we have the telephone. If we don't have or if our client doesn't have the desktop, the internet connectivity, okay? And then one of the things that we also have to consider is ano yung application that we are going to use, okay? In the United States, one of their recommended best practices in online counseling, they are recommending Zoom paid account, okay? Kasi in the previous months, nagkakaroon ng issue si Zoom in terms of security, no? Para may mga nakakapasok na mga hindi mo naman kilala pero nakakapasok sila dun sa online meetings, ano? So, ang pinaka nire-recommend nila yung Zoom but paid account, not the free account, okay? Then they also recommend VC, DoxyMe, FaceTime, and WhatsApp. Okay? So, ito yung mga recommended na applications that they are na parang ito yung mas nila na gamitin natin for online counseling. Okay, so alin man dyan, pwede nating explore. Okay, and then of course, the connectivity. We have to consider this, especially if our clients uh, prefer preferred modality is through Zoom. Diba? For example, so it requires Wi-Fi connection, diba? Or internet connectivity. So what if nagkaroon ng problem sa connectivity, kasi it is very common, ano, kailangan natin na i-consider 'yan. So we have to ensure that we have backups like LANs, okay? Or we use mobile data if in case na magkaroon ng 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 intermittent connectivity in our Wi-Fi. And then of course, it is also advisable na gumamit tayo ng privately owned Wi-Fi, not the public owned Wi-Fi. Kasi kung public yan, so most likely, medyo, ano yung security natin, medyo, what you call this, medyo nako-compromise yung security nung counseling sessions, no? Like for example, hindi tayo pwede mag-conduct ng counseling session when we are in a cafe, no? As much as possible, ganun din sana si client, no? Sana kung mag-obtain siya ng services ng online counseling, sana wala din siya doon wala din siya doon sa public area. Okay? Sana nandoon din siya sa private area niya, sa bahay, okay, na private room. Okay? So if everything kumbaga if anything fails, 'di ba? If all your plans will fail, you make sure that you have a plan B, plan C, plan D, no? Kung sakaling hindi talaga pwede yung internet connection, so dapat meron talaga tayong naka-backup yung pantawag natin, yung smartphone natin para makausap natin yung client natin, ma-continue natin yung counseling session pero through phone call. Okay? Then another thing that we have to consider is the security. Yan kanina ko pa rin nababanggit na we have to make sure that our counseling session, especially the data that our clients or our students are sending us, are strictly or they are secured to us, no? Walang makakakuha, walang makakakita, walang makakabasa nung counseling what you call this write up ng mga students. So we really have to ensure that the application that we are using have strong data encryption. So ano ba yung data encryption? So kung 'di ba parang pag gumagamit tayo ng email natin, so bago natin mabuksan yung email natin, nagre-require sila ng password. No, sometimes hindi lang password yung nire-require nila, kundi parang mag-type ka pa nung CAPTCHA. So these passwords and yung CAPTCHA are the security modes that we have to provide para ma-access natin yung data. So, ganun. So, hindi siya libre na na-access ng iba. Okay? So, yun yung data encryption. So, kapag ka yung ano natin, yung ginagamit natin na application requires this password, then medyo secured or hindi naman medyo secured siya. Okay? And of course, the data privacy issues. So we have to consider yung, kasi di ba we have the data privacy law na sino lang yung dapat na magkaroon ng access, pwede ba na i-share yung records mo sa ibang counselor, yan. Records of counseling session, sino lang ang dapat na nagre-record niyan. And then of course, yung retention nung record na to. Hindi po pwede na all throughout the lifetime nandiyan lang yung record na yun. Hindi. So we have to identify how long is the retention of that record. Okay? And then paano yung safekeeping of those records. And then another thing is the service providers that tayo or ako, guidance counselor ako. So, ano yung data privacy agreement nating dalawa, ako as guidance counselor, and then of course yung student as my client. So we have to discuss all of these things, no? This is part of the confidentiality agreement. Okay, kanina na-mention ko na if we are talking or we are counseling minor students or students below 18 years old, we must obtain consent from their parents. So it should be written or as much as possible meron talaga tayong makuha na response from the parents, or we have form na design na yan, parang form na yan na pipirmahan na lang ng parents, or they will open it in a certain application para ma-attach yung signature nila, no? If not, talagang mag-ano tayo ng paper, mag-send out tayo sa kanila, and then ibabalik nila sa atin yun. Pipicture nila kapag na pirmahan na nila. So we have to obtain that. And then for adult, written consent must be signed, and they should give permission to the agreement. So hindi pwede na si counselor lang yung nakakaintindi ng agreement. The counselor's responsibility is to discuss that agreement with the client, or let's say for example kung adult na yan, dapat naintindihan ni client kung ano yung limitation nung counseling services na yon. At dapat nag-agree si client doon, not just verbally but also in written. So dapat mag-affect si client ng signature niya doon sa agreement na yon. Okay? So dapat explain yan, and it is advisable to send that the agreement should be sent through email, no? So para meron tayong trace, no? Hindi naman kumbaga it is also for the protection of the counselor and for the protection of the counselee. Yan. The confidentiality agreement, so the counselor, we must ensure confidentiality of the counseling session. Dapat the counseling session, kung may recording man yan, should only be accessible by the client. And then sana si client din naman, naintindihan din naman niya sana yung yung confidentiality na hindi niya yun ipapapanood sa ibang tao, no, for their protection and for the counselor's protection. And then it ensures that no record will be accessed by anyone. Okay? It's only between you and the counselor or you and the counselee. Okay? You have to explain the limitation of the confidentiality to the student and or the parents kasi there are some instances na kailangan i-break yung confidentiality, especially when the client is parang nagsabi siya or nagpakita siya ng signs na that he's about to hurt someone or he's about to hurt uh, himself. So yan, medyo kailangan nating i-break niya yung confidentiality pagka ganyan. So it is also should be stipulated in the confidentiality agreement na dapat na agreehan ni client at ng parent kung minor. Okay? So yan. So we also have to consider the communication. So we have to set boundaries, ano, usually the counseling session, the online counseling session should last for 50 minutes to 1 hour. Maximum na yung 1 hour. Siguro sa uh, fi- dun sa 10 minutes na na additional dun sa 50 minutes, wrapping up na lang yon, 'di ba? Parang tapos na talaga yung counselor, inaano na lang, inaayos na lang ni counselor yung yung counseling notes niya, okay? As counselors, we have to focus on the frame. Kasi napakahirap sa totoo lang na makita sa online counseling yung mga verbal cues, yung mga behavioral cues na makikita lang natin in a face-to-face counseling session. Kasi nakakatulong yun para ma-identify mo ano ba talaga yung anong problem ng client mo. But in online counseling, mas tumatagal, mas tasking siya kasi mas mahaba yung nagiging session kasi ang dami mong kailangang tingnan na anggulo. Okay? Ang dami mong kailangang itanong para ma-identify mo kung ano talaga yung problem, ano yung concerns, and ano yung possible na help na maibibigay or na magagawa mo dun sa client mo. So you have for the counselors, you have to focus on the frame. Okay, kung ano yung nakikita mo dun sa client. As much as possible, pareho kayo nagkakakitaan, eye level yung pag-uusap ninyo, no? Hindi yung nandito sa taas yung video mo tapos yung noo yung nakikita sa iyo. So dapat level lang, eye level yung monitor, yung camera, ayan nagkakakitaan kayo eye to eye. And then at the same time, dapat kasi may mga clients na mas comfortable sila na makipag-usap na naka-off yung video. So pag-usapan niyo 'yon na mas makakatulong, mas mapapaikli yung session kung nakikita kayo ni counselor, no? Makaka-less ng time 'yon for counseling kasi at least somehow yung video conferencing, yung mga nakikita ni counselor kung ano yung mga behavioral cues somehow at least sa facial, ano. Okay, and then of course, yung taking turns to speak. Kasi 'di ba pagka online, minsan pareho kayong nagkakasabay kasi baka mabagal yung connectivity ni counselor or mabagal yung connectivity ni client. So minsan nakapagsalita ka na tapos si client nasasabay yung pag-uusap ninyo. So ang nangyayari nag-overlap. No, so you have to talk about it na paano yung exchange of communication ninyo. Pakiramdaman ba ganyan or tapusin ko muna yung tanong or di kaya sabihin ni client na okay, can you answer this? Ganyan may mga verbal cues, ano, may mga cues kayo kung sino na talaga yung magsasalita sa inyo para hindi nag-overlap yung communication. And then of course, for counselors and counseling, we have to identify kung up to what time tayo open for clarification and for questions. Kailan natin i-welcome or kailan tayo open para dun sa mga inquiry or clarification or questions regarding what you have talked about, ano, between you and the client or between you and the student, no? So pwede ba si student is pwede ba na mag-chat sa'yo after nung session ninyo? Pwede bang mag-send sa'yo ng email kahit natapos na yung session ninyo? Up to what time? So si counselor, kailangan niyang i-communicate yun kay student na kayo pwede I can accommodate your inquiry, your question, your clarification from this to this day, ito MWF from ganitong time hanggang 5 p.m. So by 5 p.m. kung ano man yung marireceive ko or after 5 p.m. kung ano man yung marireceive ko sa email or through chat, I will answer that the next day, the next morning, okay? When my working time is when I'm on to work online, okay? Then of course, the note taking kasi medyo crucial din kasi yung note taking eh. Are we comfortable for counselors? Are we comfortable to take down notes while we are talking or while we are having video conferencing with our client online? Or is it possible to record the session? So you have to include that in confidentiality agreement. Okay, and then of course for informed consent. And before recording, you have to ask first your client kahit na nasa ano na siya, kahit na nasa informed consent na siya. So you still have to ask the client or the student verbally if it's okay for them to record the session. Okay? So, and of course, the note taking should not be accessible to other people. It's just you, it's just between the student and the counselor. So dapat ano lang, si counselor lang yung nakakakita nung notes na binibigay na sinusulat niya sa paper, okay? And then of course, we also have to consider yung written communication like yung email, mag-email ba? Saan ba tayo mas comfortable through email or through text messages? Part ba ito ng online counseling? Yes, of course. Kaya lang yung through written communication lang. So yung exchange ng conversation is through typewritten. So hindi siya through verbal, no? So yan. So part din yan ng online counseling. Okay, so ayun na po yung mga different considerations that we have in conducting online counseling. So, before ako magtapos, ayan, so in counseling, ito po yung isa sa mga palagi po namin sinasabi, what you say in here stays in here. So it's just between you and me, except if someone is hurting you, you want to hurt someone, and you want to hurt yourself. So, kapag dumating na sa point na ganito, nasa ganitong estado na si client or si student, okay, it's a must that we have to break the confidentiality. And for student, we have to inform the parents, or kapag adult now, we have to inform some authorities or those people or the immediate family members of these plans to hurt themselves, to hurt someone, and to hurt or if someone is hurting them. Ayan. So ito po yung mga rules when to break confidentiality. Okay, so when little people are overwhelmed by big emotions, it's our job to share our calm, not join their chaos. No, sana tayong mga counselors, even teachers, no, sana mag-contribute tayo para matulungan yung mga students natin na maging calm during this difficult time. No, sana wag na tayo makadagdag doon sa internal chaos, no, doon sa pag-aalala, sa anxiety, dun sa takot nila, sa pagkakaroon ng terrifying emotions, no? So, sana makatulong tayo sa kanila emotionally. Okay, so anything is possible when you have the right people there to support you. So, itong mga services na to ay sana makatulong sa mga students natin. At sana yung mga students natin ay wag ding mag-atubili na mag-seek ng counseling help sa ating mga registered guidance counselors. At para naman dun sa mga teachers natin, sana mas maunawaan nating lahat yung role ni guidance counselor ay hindi po para lang sabihin na sila lang yung may karapatang mag-counseling. No, hindi po. It is actually for the protection of the client and of course of the community. Mas malaki po yung panalo ng community kapag po registered guidance counselor ang nag-handle ng mga ng counseling sessions. Ayan po. So with that, thank you so much po sa Vival and of course sa ating mga tagapakinig, sa mga teachers po from different parts of our country. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Now, let us proceed to the question and answer portion.
Yes.
Our first question is from Ferdinand Kiatchon. Paano ko tutulungan ang mga taong may suicidal tendency sa panahon ngayong bawal ang face-to-face contact and hindi naman lahat may internet access and gadget?
Okay po. Actually, isa po yan sa mga challenges na talagang pinag-iisipan po natin kung paano natin gagawin ano. Pero kung sakali man po na may na-encounter po talaga kayo na may mga suicidal tendencies po, suicidal thoughts, importante po na ma-inform po yung immediate family members. No, kung hindi naman po kayo registered guidance counselor, kung friend po kayo, kung teacher po kayo, i-inform po ninyo ang immediate family members para po masamahan po itong mga client na to. Masamahan po sila during this difficult time until such time po na mag-calm sila at medyo makapag-isip pa po sila ng maayos kung itutuloy po ba nila. Sana po wala pong plano ano kasi kung may plano na talaga si client, kailangan po nating tumawag ng other professionals po na natutulong sa kanila. So yun po, kung talaga pong hindi po kaya ng family members, kailangan po nating i-refer sa other professionals like yung mga doctors po, kailangan pong ma-confine for the meantime para po makalm lang yung client. Pero pinaka makakatulong po talaga initially are the family members. Yun
Thank
po.
you, ma'am. Our next question is from Mary Angel Villanueva. Ano po ang mga certified agencies na may guidance counseling services kung walang guidance counseling sa public school at private school?
Okay. So actually po, dun sa previous talk ko, nakapag-share po ako ng mga list ng nag-o-offer po ng online counseling. So we have yung PMHA po, pwede po. Ang PGH po, meron po silang telemental counseling po. For psychiatrist naman po yun. Actually po, ang dami po ngayong nag-o-offer online eh. I-search lang po natin sa internet kung ano po yung mga list ng providers po ng free counseling, free online counseling po. So usually naman po sa internet ay available po yung kanilang mga email addresses, contact details like yung cellphone number po. Available naman po. So kahit taga saan naman po, halimbawa po kung kanina po nabanggit ko, kung nasa province po kayo, kahit po taga Metro Manila yung kausapin nyo, okay lang naman po. So makakapag-avail po tayo ng online counseling services po. So pwede po 'yan kung sakali pong wala po kayo sa institution ninyo. So pwede po nating i-refer or let's say kausapin po yung client or yung student or yung parent na yun po ang gawin. Tumawag po dun sa mga providers po ng online counseling.
Thank you, ma'am. Our next question is from Ella May Makasinag. How will you assess if the online counseling is effective if you can see the result to your client or student?
Okay. Usually, kami po ang practice po namin kapag after online counseling po namin is we provide evaluation link to our students or to our client to assess kung naging effective ba yung counseling. So, yun po, ginagather po namin yung mga data na yon and then we try to look into them para po ma-assess din po namin yung practice namin. So, isa po yun sa mga ginagawa po natin. Kasi, i-inform naman po ni client through the evaluation kung nakatulong ba sa kanya. So, dapat din yung evaluation form natin ay designed to identify yung level of effectivity of our counseling session. So, it's really a must to have an evaluation form or link.
Thank you, ma'am. Our next question is from Ferdinand Kiatchon. Can teachers be trained para maging guidance counselors if schools don't have any licensed guidance counselor?
Okay, for the educational institutions po na walang registered guidance counselor, what they can have is to conduct or to have psychological first aid. So ito po ay binibigay po kahit na hindi po practitioners ng counseling. So sa mga teachers, applicable po ito sa mga teachers, no, recommendable po. So sa psychological first aid po kasi ang ginagawa po natin is to provide the initial need of the student without conducting guidance, without conducting counseling. So hindi po natin, wala po tayong na-violate na law doon. So yun po yung pinakamaganda, pinaka-advisable po to have a psychological first aid training for teachers. Then after the psychological first aid, kung talagang hindi pa rin po okay si student, that's the time na dapat na pong i-refer sa professionals. Like, makipag-partner po tayo sa mga institution na may registered guidance counselors. O di kaya po, i-utilize po natin yung mga free online counseling, what you call this, websites para po ma-refer po natin yung mga students po na nangangailangan.
Thank you, ma'am. Our next question is from the Gauli. If the guidance staff, non-RGC, will conduct interviews with the student as a sort of PFA, is she still going to ask for a parent's consent, or is parent's consent only required for counseling service?
As much as possible po, when we are getting the information of our students, initially po dapat sa school pa lang, pag start pa lang po ng klase, identified na po itong mga services na to na ikakandak po natin to for the whole school year. So bago po mag-start ang klase, nakapag-provide na po tayo ng informed consent sa ating mga parents, ano, para po bago mo gawin yung mga gantong services, informed na si parents, so may informed consent na tayo. So it is really in Data Privacy Act po kasi required po iyon. Kailangan po talaga magkaroon ng informed consent. Galing po sa lalong-lalo na po kung minor.
Thank you, ma'am. Our next question is from Bernice Sumalinog. What services can we offer po if we do not have RGC in school and only RPMs?
Okay po. RPMs can conduct testing po, assessment, kasi they are the ones licensed to do that. Okay? And then, you can provide psychological first aid. Okay? So, yun, coaching, pwede po. Pwede pong mag-coaching, mentoring, pwede po ang mentoring. So, and of course, yung mga interviews po, pwede rin po. And then yung mga group activities, except for counseling.
Thank you, ma'am. Our next question is from Ann Rivera. How can we equip teachers for basic counseling? May webinar po ba for such concerns?
For basic counseling po, actually in our institution po, we actually provide our pre-service teachers po basic counseling techniques po. Pero they are practicing it as teachers po. Pero hindi, that is still beyond, that is very basic, na hindi po sila nag-overlap dun sa role ni counselor. So pwede naman po, kumbaga para makuha lang po natin yung competence kung paano po natin kakausapin yung students, but not conducting counseling. Kumbaga po parang we're just guiding them, we are just parang kinukumusta natin yung estudyante kung kumusta na sila, pero we will not go beyond that. Okay? So pwede naman po. Pwede po kayo mag-invite sa mga institutions po ninyo ng mga registered guidance counselors din po para i-train po kayo. Kaya actually po, pwede rin po yung i-offer ng VIBAL, ng VIBAL para sa mga susunod po na webinar. Okay, pwede naman po.
Thank you, ma'am. And our last question is from Onel Panuncio. Ma'am, ano po ang gagawin ko kapag may lumapit o nag-chat sa akin na may problema na halos may suicidal thoughts na, pero di ko po alam ang isasagot ko?
Okay. Sa totoo lang po, kapag may mga ganyang cases po, napakahirap po talaga na sumagot kasi hindi natin alam kung tama ba yung sasabihin natin or baka mas maka-worst pa dun sa na-experience nila. So, kaya mas maganda rin po talaga na minsan yung presence lang po natin ang ibigay natin sa kanila. Okay? And siguro po, kung meron po tayong gagawin para sa kanila, the best is to encourage them to open up their problems to their family members. Okay, encouragement lang po and support na nandiyan po tayo para sa kanila. Okay. So yun po yung pinaka pwede po nating ibigay para po hindi po tayo makadagdag dun sa dinadala nila o baka kasi pwedeng maging contributory factor tayo para ituloy nila yung kanilang mga yung nasa isip nila na sana wag naman pong umabot doon. Okay, so better na to talk to their parents or let them talk to their parents or family members para po yung family members nila ang makapagbigay ng assistance na kailangan po nila. Yun po.
That's all the questions we have for now. Any last reminders to our viewers for today po?
Okay, so sana po ang sa akin ang
There we have it.
yes. Okay, so for last word po para po sa ating mga viewers, sa mga teachers po natin, sana po malas po sana yung stigma to those students or teachers who are seeking guidance and counseling help. And mas ma-promote pa po natin para mabawasan po yung mental health concerns, ayan, para po kumbaga parang bago po maging serious pa yung problem, ma-attend na po agad yung need ng community natin, ano, kasi hindi lang minsan hindi lang naman sa school yan, pwede naman na sa ano lang, pwedeng yung kapitbahay ganyan, tapos fortunate na may kapitbahay kayong registered guidance counselor, no, para hindi maging serious yung problem nila, mas maganda po na i-refer na agad natin sila sa registered guidance counselor. And sana po mas ma-promote po natin yon. And kasi alam ko yung mga teachers natin, marami na silang pinagdadaanan. So wag na nating dagdagan pa ng mga wag na masyadong madagdagan pa ng mga um, emotional concerns ng mga estudyante. So kung tutulong po tayo sa mga estudyante, so pang ano na lang po, pang referral ganun. Para po at least maging ano po kayo, parang maging bridge po tayo ng proper services na dapat pong ma-receive ng ating mga estudyante. Ayun po. Maraming salamat po sa mga viewers po natin. Shout out po dun sa mga taga PNU, sa mga PNU1 po, yung mga students ko po ay naka-tune in, at sa mga kaguruan po ng PNU at yung mga teacher po na relatives ko sa probinsya po ng Mindoro. Maraming salamat po. Thank you, Miss Jillian.
There we have it. In behalf of VIBAL Group Incorporated, I would like to thank our speaker for today for this very eye-opening and insightful learning session. It is an honor to have you with us today, ma'am. And to
Thank you
all
so
our
much. Thank you so much.
And to all our Kavibal viewers, all thanks to you for your continuous patronage to our daily learning session. Don't forget to register to get your e-certificate of participation. We also encourage you to subscribe and watch on our official Vibal Facebook and YouTube channel. Muli, maraming salamat at magandang araw sa ating lahat.